You know that feeling when a highly anticipated, like incredibly powerful new tool drops,
Mm.
and then within maybe 48 hours, it just seems like your entire feed is completely flooded with people claiming to be absolute masters of it.
Oh, yeah. It's wild. The collective anxiety in the developer space is just palpable right now.
Right. Suddenly, you're staring at a blank terminal, and that pressure to just catch up instantly is, well, it's completely overwhelming.
Because a new paradigm emerges, the starting gun goes off, and if you aren't immediately sprinting and, publicly documenting how optimally you're sprinting, you feel like you've already lost the race.
Yeah, exactly. And when we feel that specific type of pressure, our instinct is to scramble for a shortcut, right? Like we go looking for a blueprint,
Totally. We just want someone to tell us what to type.
right? Which brings me to a scenario I was thinking about while I was prepping the materials for today's deep dive. Just imagine deciding you want to learn how to ride a bicycle for the very first time. But instead of actually getting on the seat and like feeling the balance, you just sit on your couch with a notepad and you just watch hours of footage of professional cyclists.
Right, taking furious notes on, like, the exact angle of their knees.
Exactly. You meticulously write down their pedal angles, their grip tension, the exact PSI of their tires, all of it.
And you end up with a brilliant notebook full of data. I mean, it's great data, but you still completely lack the muscle memory of keeping the actual bike upright.
Yes. You have zero idea what it feels like when the front wheel actually wobbles beneath you.
Right, because you haven't felt it.
And that dynamic perfectly encapsulates what we're examining today. So our mission for this deep dive is to explore a radically simple, highly interactive methodology for new users who are trying to master complex AI environments.
Which is so needed right now.
It really is. Specifically, we're focusing on terminal-based agents like Claude Code.
Yeah, and we have some incredibly illuminating source material guiding this exploration today. It comes from a short, remarkably candid update by a creator and developer named Tony.
Yeah, Tony's stuff is great.
It is. He's currently building a company entirely in the open. But the really unique angle here is that his co-founder is an AI named Mycroft.
Which is such a cool concept. And Tony is documenting the unvarnished reality of this human-AI collaboration. Like, he doesn't just show off the pristine, finished code that makes it look easy.
No, not at all.
He shares what he refers to as the rakes we step on, the midnight breakdowns, the wins. It's this incredibly refreshing, just unfiltered look at the actual friction involved in making these autonomous tools function in a messy, real-world code base.
Because, I mean, we have to remember Claude Code isn't just a chatbot sitting harmlessly in a browser tab.
Right, it's not just generating text.
Exactly. It's an agent operating directly in your terminal. It has read and write access to your file system. It can execute commands, modify your architecture, run scripts. It's powerful.
Yeah.
So when a tool has that level of agency, stepping on a rake doesn't just mean a funny hallucination in a chat window. I mean, it can mean breaking your entire local environment.
Which is terrifying for a beginner. And that brings us to the core issue Tony highlights, which is the standard playbook for beginners.
All right.
You know, the trap of the guru blueprint.
Right, the YouTube experts.
Yeah. When Tony first integrated Claude Code, he started exactly where almost everyone starts when a new tool drops. He went looking for those experts.
Of course. That's what we've all been trained to do.
Right? He spent hours consuming tutorials, pausing videos to, scrutinize the complex configuration files these power users were setting up in their environments.
He was basically copying down their tire PSI and pedal angles, hoping to just transplant their expertise directly into his terminal.
He was searching for that magic config file that would just make this autonomous agent work perfectly out of the box. And let's be honest, we all do this.
Oh, absolutely.
Because staring at a flashing cursor in a command line interface when you don't know the specific operational bounds of the agent is intimidating. You just want scaffolding.
And to be fair, those guides genuinely do help beginners initially. Having a starting point is better than nothing.
True, yeah.
But what's fascinating here is that Tony quickly realized this approach was entirely counterproductive long-term.
He just dropped it completely, right?
Yeah, he completely abandoned it. He explicitly stated in his update that video tutorials and expert guides are no longer his teachers. And the reason why is so interesting when you break down the psychology of a tutorial.
Tell me more about that.
Well, a power user creating a guide is essentially showing you how to solve their specific problems and avoid their historical mistakes.
Oh, right. They're building a protective wall around the unique rakes they have stepped on in the past.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of it. A guru might have spent weeks working in, I don't know, a massive legacy Python backend dealing with really complex dependency conflicts.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It is. So their configuration file is loaded with highly specific rules, exclusions, and custom execution paths designed to navigate that specific nightmare.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right. If you blindly copy their setup, but you are building, say, a lightweight front-end React application from scratch, you're loading your AI agent with constraints and anxieties about problems that literally do not exist in your universe.
Wow. So you are actively crippling your own tool's efficiency by making it dodge ghosts.
That's a great way to put it, yes. You spend your cognitive energy maintaining a complex configuration for edge cases you will never encounter.
And meanwhile, you're completely ignoring the very real fundamental obstacles sitting right in front of you in your own project.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. If we throw out the expert tutorials, aren't we just leaving new users completely stranded in the dark? What replaces the guru?
That is the big question.
Because if I am in a terminal and I don't understand the underlying syntax of how this AI agent prefers to parse commands, I physically cannot tell it what to do effectively. The tutorial bridges that syntax gap.
Right. That's the fear.
So if I'm not allowed to copy the expert,
Yeah.
what is the alternative? Am I supposed to just guess until the AI breaks my project?
And that is the pivotal anxiety for every new user. But it leads directly to Tony's core breakthrough. The alternative isn't guessing.
Okay.
The alternative is recognizing that the fundamental nature of the software has changed. You don't need an external tutorial bridging the syntax gap because the tool possesses the metacognition to bridge the gap itself.
Wait, meaning the agent can just configure its own behavior?
Exactly. It's a massive paradigm shift. We're so conditioned to treat software as rigid, right?
Right. If a traditional program isn't behaving how you want, you have to go read the documentation.
You find the correct flag, dig into a settings file, change a Boolean from false to true, but an agentic AI operating in your terminal is conversational.
Oh, wow. So direct interaction is the solution.
Yes. Tony's entire methodology hinges on this one pivot. Instead of opening a browser tab to search Stack Overflow or, watch a guide on how to fix a Claude Code error, you just stay in the terminal.
You just stay there and interrogate the tool directly. I love that. And Tony actually outlines these 3 deceptively simple questions to ask the AI, particularly after it executes a task poorly or takes an unexpected path.
Let's hear them.
So the first question is just simply, what did you just do?
And on a technical level, that question is incredibly revealing.
Really? How so?
Because an agent like Claude Code operates by executing a chain of commands. So maybe it searched your directories, then it read 3 different files, attempted to run a build script, and then ultimately failed.
Right. It's doing a lot behind the scenes.
By asking, what did you just do? You are forcing the LLM to output its internal execution trace in plain English.
So you aren't parsing raw log files.
No. You are having the agent summarize its own operational logic for you.
It brings all that invisible work right into the light. That's so smart. And then Tony moves to the second question, which is, what helped? What got in your way?
Yes. And this targets the environmental constraints. This is where you uncover the friction in your own code base that you might actually be blind to.
Give me an example of that.
Well, the AI might respond, hey, I was trying to update the authentication logic, but your routing files are split across 3 different poorly named folders, which severely degraded my ability to map the dependencies.
Ouch. The AI calling out your bad folder names.
Exactly. But suddenly, you aren't debugging an AI configuration issue anymore. You're having a high-level architectural discussion about your own messy file structure.
You realize the rake isn't the AI's fault at all. The rake is your own directory layout.
Yep.
And that leads to the third question, which I actually think represents the biggest mental hurdle for developers. The question is, why did you make that mistake?
Oh, that's a huge shift. It requires completely suspending our traditional tech support mindset.
Because usually when a compiler throws an error or a script crashes, we just get frustrated.
Yeah.
We assume we fat-fingered a command or the software has a bug.
Right. We don't ask the compiler about its feelings or its reasoning, but asking an LLM why it made a mistake treats the model as a collaborator capable of reflection.
You are literally tapping into the model's chain of thought capabilities.
Hmm.
You're asking it to analyze its own false assumptions.
And the crazy part is, it will tell you.
Really?
Yeah. It might say, well, I assumed based on standard conventions that the database schema was defined locally, so I executed a search command that timed out. I failed to realize we were pulling the schema from an external API.
That is wild.
By asking these 3 questions, you basically force the AI to diagnose the gap between its training data and the idiosyncratic reality of your specific project.
You are turning the tool into a bespoke tutor. Like, the answers you get from asking those 3 questions in your terminal are infinitely more valuable than a generic tutorial.
Because the learning is hyper-contextualized.
Exactly. It's entirely about your code, your habits, and your rakes.
But, this brings up a mechanical challenge.
Okay, what's that?
Having a reflective conversation after a failure is excellent for a one-off debugging session, right? You find the error, you fix the file structure, you move on. But how does this scale? Because if you open a new terminal session tomorrow, the AI agent is going to boot up with a blank slate. How do we take these individual moments of direct interaction and build a persistent, self-updating system?
And this is where Tony's workflow shifts from, like, a neat psychological trick into a robust engineering framework. He doesn't just read the AI's explanation, say, interesting, and then clear the terminal.
No, he extracts a hard lesson and formalizes it.
Right. He closes the feedback loop. Every time the agent articulates a constraint, like, I struggle when you use vague variable names in this specific module, Tony distills that into a concrete rule.
And the mechanical implementation of this is crucial for new users to understand.
Now, let's talk about the how.
Tony utilizes the local configuration capabilities of the tool. So in the case of Claude Code, you can create a localized markdown file, often it's a .claude code file, or just custom project instructions that sits right in the root of your directory.
Okay.
Tony takes the lesson generated by the AI, and he writes it directly into that file.
Think about the architecture of how these agents operate. When you initialize a session, before you even type your first prompt, the agent pulls the contents of that local configuration file and appends it to its system prompt.
Exactly. It fills the context window with the specific rules of your environment.
Which means the tool reads the rules at the start of every single session. It is a daily, automated reset, but with an ever-expanding manual.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It is the exact equivalent of hiring a highly capable assistant.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Imagine, on Tuesday, your assistant misfiles an invoice because they didn't understand your weird naming convention for international clients.
It happens all the time.
So you sit down, you ask what got in their way, and you explain the convention.
But instead of just hoping their assistant happens to remember that brief conversation 3 weeks from now when another international invoice arrives, you write a new protocol into their onboarding manual.
Yes, and you mandate that they sit at their desk and read that entire manual cover to cover every single morning before they are allowed to open an email.
That would be a very intense assistant. But for an AI, it's perfect. Their operational baseline improves daily. They become perfectly molded to your specific idiosyncrasies.
Exactly. If you prefer your test scripts written with a certain assertion library, or, if you want the agent to always verify Git status before attempting a commit, you just drop it in the file.
And you never have to re-explain your preferences. The friction simply evaporates over time.
It's brilliant because it removes the cognitive load of babysitting the AI.
But there's always but as we know, with any system that begins to automate its own optimization, it introduces a completely new vector of risk.
Oh, yes.
We need to talk about the sanity check.
You mean the inevitable creep of the black box?
Exactly. Because if you are constantly asking the AI to analyze its own bottlenecks, it is eventually going to suggest highly complex technical solutions to speed up the workflow.
Right. It's going to say, hey, I can fix this faster.
Yeah, it might suggest writing a dense, multi-layered automated script, or fundamentally altering the execution paths of your build environment.
The agent might literally say, hey, I notice we keep running into memory issues when compiling this directory. I've written a custom 80-line bash script that dynamically allocates resources and hooks into your system variables. Just paste this into the config file.
And the temptation to just hit accept is astronomical.
Oh, it's so tempting.
You're tired, you want to get back to the actual product you're building, and the AI promises a 20% efficiency boost if you just blindly apply its generated code.
And this is where the threshold of control is truly tested. At what point does optimizing your environment cost you your comprehension of your environment?
That's a scary thought.
Because if your local configuration file evolves into this dense web of AI-generated rejects and automated workflows that you cannot personal read or debug, you are no longer the architect of your own system.
You essentially become a guest in a house the AI built. And if something breaks deep inside that black box, you're completely helpless. Tony is acutely aware of this danger, and he implements one strict, non-negotiable boundary to prevent it. He never, under any circumstances, applies a setting or a rule that he does not fundamentally understand.
It sounds like basic common sense, honestly, but maintaining that discipline when you are moving fast is incredibly difficult.
So hard. But he explicitly states that he leaves very complex schemes completely alone.
But he doesn't just dismiss them outright.
No. He utilizes that core principle of direct interaction one more time. Before he rejects the complex automated script, he forces the AI to explain it.
Which is such a great habit. He asks the agent to break down the logic of its proposed solution into plain English.
He interrogates the execution steps until he, the human developer, genuinely grasps the underlying mechanics of what the code is going to do to his system.
And he notes that the AI handles this translation beautifully. It can absolutely demystify its own complex logic if you ask it to.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is really all about maintaining agency. The human must remain the director. The AI, no matter how autonomous, must remain the tool. By insisting on reading and understanding every single line that goes into that configuration file, Tony ensures his hands never leave the steering wheel.
He leverages the sheer speed and adaptability of the LLM, but he absolutely refuses to surrender his comprehension. Because think about it, the moment you start pasting configuration rules that you don't understand into your system prompt, you are right back where you started.
You are back to blindly copying the YouTuber setup.
Precisely. The only difference is that the guru you are blindly copying is now an LLM.
Right. You've just traded an opaque blueprint from a human for an opaque blueprint from a machine.
You still don't know how to ride the bike. You've just added training wheels you don't know how to take off.
Wow, that is such a perfect way to put it. So what does this all mean? Which perfectly synthesizes the ultimate takeaway of this deep dive.
Let's summarize it.
For new users who are staring down the barrel of a powerful new agentic tool, feeling the pressure to master it instantly, the fastest path to genuine competence isn't looking outward.
It really isn't. It's not spending hours watching videos to find the perfect global configuration.
Right. The path is inward. It is localized direct interaction.
You have to get on the bike.
You stay in the terminal. You ask the tool to narrate its own execution paths. You force it to analyze its own environmental constraints and mistakes.
And then you take the friction uncovered in those conversations and you build a self-updating system.
Ensuring the tool reads those formalized rules at the start of every single session. And crucially, your ultimate safety net is your own refusal to cede comprehension. You just never apply a setting you don't understand.
It completely demystifies the learning curve. It transforms the AI from this daunting piece of alien technology into a collaborative, highly transparent partner.
It really does. And that brings us to a challenge for you listening right now. We want to echo the underlying challenge in Tony's methodology. Where do you currently source your operational workflows for AI tools?
Good question. Are you relying on external videos? Are you downloading other people's complex configuration files and just hoping for the best?
Or are you ready to start directly interrogating the tool itself? It is probably the most important question you can ask yourself before you launch your next terminal session.
Definitely.
But I want to leave you with one final, perhaps slightly uncomfortable idea to mull over. Something that takes Tony's highly optimized workflow and just pushes it to its logical extreme.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we execute this self-updating system perfectly, if we spend months meticulously training our AI agents to adapt exclusively to our own personal working styles, our own coding quirks, our own highly specific ways of thinking, do we risk isolating ourselves?
Interesting.
Do we risk eliminating the creative friction that naturally occurs when you are forced to collaborate with a tool, or a human for that matter, who approaches a problem completely differently than you do?
That is a profound technical and philosophical question. Because if the agent perfectly molds itself to the contours of your mind, it might never challenge your foundational assumptions. It will never surprise you with an architectural pattern you hadn't considered, because you trained it to only think like you.
Exactly. A perfectly tuned, perfectly personalized bicycle is incredibly efficient. I mean, it never wobbles. But sometimes It is the unexpected wobble, the friction of a differing perspective that forces you to discover a completely new path.
That's a lot to think about.
Think about it. We will catch you on the next deep dive.